Howdy y'all, Bristol here. Just wanted to post this. This is an excerpt from my recent Noah's Ark video, and it is centered around the etymology and history of Jupiter Skyfather worship. I hope you enjoy. The earliest known articulation of Jupiter Skyfather worship was listed as Dios Pater, Father, Daylight, Sky God. Dios, or Dievas, means sky heaven, and Pater, Peter, meaning father. This early Proto-Indo European sky god was symbolized as the bull. From Proto-Indo European, Dievas cognate with the following: Proto-Hellenic, Jupiter, Ancient Greek, Pater, Father Zeus, Proto-Indo-Iranian, Dios Peta, Proto-Indo-Aryan, Jos Pita, Vedic Sanskrit, Jos Peter, Proto-Italic, Jus Pater. Descendants: Albanian, Zoj, spelled Z-O-J-Z to English, sky lightning god, supreme being in Albanian. Greeks, Zeus, obviously. Latin, Jovis, Jove. And notice the similar sound to Yahweh, Yehovah. Jovis, Jove, Yahweh, Yehovah. Old Latin, Gispiter, from Proto-Italic Ziovis, Jove. Umbrian, and they had very interesting looking runes, the Umbrians did, Iopater. Extinct language spoken by the Umbri in the ancient Italian region of Umbria, related to the Oscans, formerly of South Italy. So, Divas, Jevas, Juvas, that sound, that link, carries us into this right here. Divas, meaning heavenly shining bodies, exalted ones. And Indra, also Jupiter, is king of Divas in Hinduism. It is one of the terms used to indicate a deity in Hinduism, Divas. Diva, D-E-V-A, is masculine. Devi, D-E-V-I, is feminine. The word is cognate with the Latin Deus, God, and Greek Zeus. Indra is Jupiter in many aspects, as he too wields a thunderbolt and is ruler of the sky, heavens, thunder, lightning, and war. Very much equivalent to other deities such as Odin, Perun from Slavic, Perkunas, Lithuanian, Tyrannus, Celtic, and Thor, Norse. Jos, or Divas, or Jos Divas Peter, is the Rig Vedic sky deity. His consort is Pirti, Pirte, the earth goddess, and together they are the archetypal parents in the Rig Veda. Akasha means ether in traditional Hindu cosmology, and was adopted in Western occultism in the late 19th century. Akasha, Akasa, and Akashic, like Akashic records. Similarly, Akashic also means ethereal or cosmic records / cosmic memory, ethereal memory. In many modern Indo-Aryan languages and Dravidian languages, the corresponding word retains a generic meaning of ether. The Hindu god of Akasha is Divas, Dios. It simply means, quote, the basis of all things in the material world, the first element created. From ether, then air, from that fire, from which water, there forms the earth. As personification of the sky, Jos, Zivas, is a member of the 33 gods, or Tridasha, literally meaning 3 tens, which is a pantheon of Hindu deities of the current Manvatara, which in Hindu cosmology is a cyclical period of time identifying the duration, reign, or age of a Manu, the progenitor of mankind, aka the Hindu Noah. The Samhitas, which are the oldest layer of text in the Vedas, dating as far back as 1500, maybe 2000 BCE, lists the 33 deities classified as Devas as being 8 Vasus, or deities of material elements, Divas, Dios, sky, Agni, fire. 12 Adityas, or personified deities, Indra, Aryan, etc. 11 Rudras, referring to the forms of the god Rudra associated with Shiva. 2 Ashvins, twin solar deities who are called Jivanapata, or grandsons of Jas, drawing heavy correlations to the following. Lithuanian Ziv Sunilai, sons of Divas, Skyfather, attached to the Ashvini, the Latvian Divadali, sons of Divs, Jivas, or the Greek Zioskori, the boys of Zeus, designated them as Castor and Pollux, the sign of Gemini. In the later Vedic texts, Prajapati, also Jupiter, is defined as literally, quote, Lord of the people, from Sanskrit, and is synonymously used with other gods such as Brahma and Indra. His role varying throughout the text as, quote, simply the one true creator of absolutely everything, end quote. 33 is the master number and is most notoriously used within occult societies such as Freemasonry as its highest attainable degree with an honorary stature. It is associated with nurturing, creativity, and spirituality in numerology. Jupiter rules the number 3, and 3 itself is about creativity, expansion, communication. Reducing 33 down to 6 gives us the ruling planet of Venus, which is more so about nurturing, harmony, responsibility. Thus, making 33 embody the mastery of energy, emotion, balance, creativity, and spirituality with an emphasis to teach and uplift. It makes even more sense now that the two planets visible in daylight, Jupiter and Venus, join in the number 33, are called heavenly shining bodies as Devas, and together joined in union to bring in the Bronze Age, as Jupiter's element is tin and Venus's is copper, bringing more divine expansion to humanity. And we see that expansion in the Bronze Age, that expansion in tech, tools, weaponry, allowed for the militaristic Martian expression of the Jupiterian expression of expansion. One final note on some specifics within the Hindu scripts. Yayati is an emperor in Hindu tradition and is described as a Chandra Vamsa, or the lunar dynasty, which claims to be from Chandra, the lunar god, literally meaning shining/moon, who was born from Atri, son of Brahma. Yayati's father, King Nahusha, who upon Indra's, Jupiter's, loss of power, the Devas asked Nahusha to be the new Indra. He ruled over the 3 worlds with the guidance of sage Brihaspati for 100 years. Arrogance and pride became Nahusha's downfall, and wished to make Shachi, the wife of Indra, his wife. He made the Sapatrishi, 7 Vedic sages, convey his palanquin towards the mansion of Indra's wife, with the intent of seducing her, asking them to hasten by saying Sarpa, Sarpa, which means move on, move on. He's asking the sages to hurry up. He was then cursed by the utterance of the 7 sages as a result of their anger towards his disrespect. They turned him into a serpent, and he fell down from the sky. The 7 sages represent the 7 stars in the Big Dipper, making the swastika or the wheel in the sky during the year's progress. They symbolize, as 7 sages, the immortal guides of cosmic order. This also translates to the 7 candles in the Bible. Now, the 7 candles more or less represent the planetary bodies, Mars, Venus, Saturn, rather than the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. But you see how it correlates. The swastika, the guiding of cosmic order, the constant of cosmic order. Both Nahusha and Nahash evoke the radiant, shining, elevated being archetypes, whose luminosity/divinity turns to degradation when spiritual light becomes, quote, self-absorbed and self-glorified. So we see that, in the light bearer narrative. We see that in the Satan narrative. Hell, him being Nahusha being cast down as a serpent. To tempt. Very interesting. Thus, across traditions, the serpent embodies the same moral: divine knowledge slithering away from he who holds it through misuse, turning wisdom into downfall. Yayati then becomes king in his place and rules the earth. He appoints his 4 younger brothers to rule the world's cardinal directions. As a result of his virtues, he was ascended to heaven, called Svarga, the realm ruled by Indra. In conclusion, this brings more attention to the Jupiterian connection throughout all of these previous languages, which now we will turn our attention to Iapetos, Japheth, Tivaz expressions, all sharing the same roots with Jivas, Jospiter, Proto-Indo European connections, as well as a few side quests we can talk about as well. The underlying Jupiter connection. Deus, Zeus, Zivas, Zeus, Divas, have so far all alluded to ancient Skyfather Jupiterian worship throughout its etymology. This briefly brings us to the Lithuanian form of Jupiter named Perkūnas. He is the god of the sky, storms, fire, water, law, order, fertility, mountains, and oak trees. His symbol is the swastika. His day is Thursday, Thor's day, and his colors are red and white. His name is generally regarded as stemming from the Proto-Indo European root per, to strike, or purkus, the oak. Attached to the nomenclature, nos, master of. Side note, Dryas, from the younger Dryas impact, as previously mentioned, Dryas comes from the Greek meaning wood nymph or oak, and from the Pi root, geru, meaning to be firm, solid, or steadfast. Again, bringing us right back to Jupiter alignments, oak, steadfast, expansion. So how does this align? The striker of Perkūnas may reference to the spearhead lightning bolt, piercing the tall oak trees of the time. Humans observing these phenomena, taking inspiration from that divine power, seeing the oak tree retaining the latent embers caused by a lightning strike. Thus, the flame rekindles the essence of the Promethean flame within, honing in more fertile expansions within the family ancestral tree of humanity, and like the oak, continuing to grow, adapt, and expand amidst chaos and hardship. Again, that lightning, that Jupiter lightning bolt, that's like a spear point, the apetos, piercer. In more ways than one, the fractal dynamic of a 3-dimensional lightning bolt, resonating multidimensionally within our minds and within the realm itself. This leads us to the notion that the tree symbology is huge within Germanic mythology, and how Yggdrasil, the great tree, encompasses all of what we have discussed. The very act of producing fire through a strike, paralleled in the belief that oak trees retain latent fire after being struck by the thunder god, may underscore the symbolic role of lightning. Also, his weapon is a mace named Mjolnir. In the Baltic Old Norse traditions, personifying lightning, and is cognate with Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. To cap it off, Perkinus battles a multi-headed water serpent connecting to occult symbology we've previously discussed, including the narrative of the Hellenistic gods' triumphant victory over the alleged Atlantean gods. More importantly, the control of the chaotic waters to bring forth divine initiation. We have been talking about Devas, Jivas, Zuvas. Now we will turn to Tivas. Tiwaz. With obviously a similar sounding name as we have previously seen, Tivaz, or Tyr in Old Norse, is recognized as both a god in Germanic mythology, Mars, and a sun god to the Luwians, or an ancient group of languages by those within the Anatolian branch of the Indo-European language family. Both instances of these names stem from the Aryan pi Divos, meaning celestial heavenly one. These names are both cognate with Zeus, Jupiter, and Tyr, and was a reflex of the male sky god of the Indo-European religion, Zeus Divas. In Bronze Age texts, Tiwaz is often referred to as father. His epithet, Tiwaz of the Oath, indicates he was an oath god. In this role, he received sacrifices of sheep, red meat, and bread. Its name can be written with the Sumerogram Dingar, their word in Sumerian for god or goddess, or with the ideogram Dios Sol, God Son. So how does Jupiter have a connection to the Mars energy of war? It's simple. Mars, Ares, is the son of Jupiter, Zeus. So think of that concept, again, not biological, let's think of it as a concept. Through expansion, we get the Martian, martial, march energy. Willpower, fiery, steadfast. Mars embodying masculine. Think of it, and Mars, the spearhead, the arrow point, Iapetos, the piercer, the Tiwaz rune, how it looks like the spearhead, all taking us back to that Atoll tool, throwing the spear, gaining more distance, allowing for more effective hunting for the feeding of society. And just the image of the piercer, the arrow point, it's present on the Mars gender symbol. And the spearhead, the piercer, can also be a reference to male, creative, phallic power. A quick note on the Mars symbolism tying in with Venus. The piercing from source to allow the divine spirit into matter. No expansion without willpower, action, or sacrifice. The fiery drive from the spark of the Promethean flame and the lightning strike of Jupiter. Iapetos the piercer, or man itself, or source, is the circle. The circle is source. The arrow is the pierce that allows spirit to flow into matter and lead to expansion. The arrow symbolizes willpower and action from source, elevating oneself to expansion, or causing pure elevation into expansion. The arrow is willpower and action from source, which elevates to expansion. Echoing the seniority of Mars's father Jupiter Iapetos, as well as Roman militaristic imagery of a shield and spear. It is also a male phallic creative power symbol, echoing the, quote, source causing the spirit to flow into matter through birth, thus expanding the tree through the fire of divinity. With the Venus symbol, both symbols allude to the divine alchemy of opposites and their marriage. Venus being the elements, air and earth, as ruler of both Libra and Taurus, alchemically marries its opposite, Mars being the elements, fire and water, as ruler of both Aries and Scorpio eagle, thus forming the cross of four elements, with the hidden fifth layer as the divine connection through matter. Both circles can be seen as, quote, source or, quote, spirit divine. And the fiery, expansive, piercing fertility of Mars's spear receptive to the Visca Pisces of the triangle of Venus create life. And like water from source within the womb, which the circle interprets as well for Venus, the watery matrix initiates new life, activating the Trinity, and like a water droplet is separated from source through the Visca Pisces, or flowing down the bottom of the symbol of Venus, releasing itself into the watery matrix. Separated from source from the castration of heaven and matter, yet still gifted with the ever-present divine flame, connected from the piercer. The greatest gift to the creation of humanity is this eternal awareness of all of this. So the Mars Aries is the son of Jupiter Zeus, bringing us back to the original Iapetos connection. Since Iapetos is, quote, the piercer, and father of Prometheus, drawing a strong allegory to being the father of the pure divine spark within humanity that launches into martial energies of drive, willpower, fiery action, like I've just said, and expansion into multiple facets of life and expressed through civilization. The observations of Iapetos being the piercer and Tiwaz holding the spear as his weapon, as well as his rune looking similar to a spear point, Mars' symbol, one cannot help but to realize the image of male creative power, action, and fertility, all encompassed through multiple faces of the same shadowy Godhead. All the while, the ancient Atl tool, like I was just talking about, used by early humans as an expansion to their spear throwing, unironically looks similar to the symbol of Jupiter, furthering the depth of connection. I also forgot to mention Tuesday is named after Tyr, Tivaz, and in Old Norse sources is described as the son of Odin. Tuesday is also looked at the god of darkness, the day of darkness. He is referenced by a 3rd century Latin inscription as Mars Thingsus. This reflects a strong association with the Germanic, quote, ting, or thing, Thing, which was a governing assembly in early Germanic society, made up of free people of the community, presided over by a law speaker. The Jupiter-Mars Iapetos energies. We will now go to Jupiter Dolicanus and the Capitoline Triad. So we're skipping some timelines here, but you'll see why. Jupiter Dolicanus was a syncretic deity popular among Roman soldiers from 2nd to 3rd centuries CE. His cult combined Jupiter with the Luwian chief god Tarquin's Tarhunti, who is also every attribute of Jupiter. You know, bull, thunderbolt, you name it. In the Iron Age, there was also direct influence from Babylonian religion, especially in the way gods were depicted, i.e., Marutika equals Marduk. also Jupiter. Iconography shows Jupiter Dolicanus standing on a bull holding a thunderbolt and a double axe, putting emphasis on cosmic power, rulership, and fertility. The cult was mystery-based, which means the initiates had to undergo secret and occult rites layered in esoteric symbolism. Unfortunately, I can't find any official quote-unquote texts, regarding any of their rituals, the blood sacrifice, blood spilling in general. But shrines and art definitely show bulls and rams being sacrificed. In some tradition, the bull should be white when it is sacrificed. I find that quite unique and interesting. Blood is the life force and is the wine to the bread, symbolically. It is also seen as a medium for divine communication. This can be interpreted as sacrificing animals as a symbolic release of life to cosmic order, reaffirming Jupiter's dominion over life, fertility, and militaristic power. There was important emphasis on brotherhood/divine protection amongst the cult and soldiers. Blood spilling in this regard symbolizes shared risk, loyalty, and the offering and commitment of one's own lifeblood to Jupiter Dolicanus in battle, thus affirming that spilling blood is seen as divine consecration, vitality offered to the god. The Capitoline Triad consisted of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, Juno, queen of the gods, associated with the marriage, women, and the Roman state, Minerva, goddess of wisdom, crafts, and later war strategy. Minerva, Juno, Jupiter make the Capitoline Triad. This triad was formally established in the 6th century BCE. Their joint temple, the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on Capitoline Hill, just like our Capitol Hill, became the most important religious site in Rome. I think I remember mentioning the only way a nation can have a capital is if it is blessed by the priests of Jupiter. However, this is not the only temple dedicated to Jupiter worship. This now turns to Jupiter Optimus Maximus Heliopolitanus. He was also a syncretic supreme god venerated at the great temple of Jupiter in Baalbek, now in modern-day Lebanon. The cult of Jupiter Heliopolitanus evolved from the ancient Canaanite religion from roughly the first 3 millennia BC, particularly the worship of the storm god/fertility god Baal-Hadad. Baal, meaning lord or master, was a title used for various local deities, while Hadad was specifically revered as the god of rain, thunder, and storms, closely linked to agricultural fertility and Jupiter. Over time, the cult of Baal-Hadad in Baalbek acquired solar characteristics, possibly due to the Hellenistic influences that equated Baal-Hadad with the Greek sun god Helios. This syncretism continued under Roman rule, with the deity further merging attributes with the Roman Jupiter, leading to the construction of a monumental temple dedicated to Jupiter Heliopolitanus in the 2nd century AD. He was often depicted holding a whip and thunderbolt. Modern scholarship largely identifies Baal with Hadad. According to the ancient Near East scholar Alberto R.W. Green, the worship of Hadad, the great storm god, emerged in Syria in the 2nd millennium BC. From his book titled The Storm God in the Ancient Near East from 2003. He gradually became known as Baal-Hadad and over time solely as Baal, becoming more associated with fertility. The German scholar Wolfgang Hermann suggested the name Baal, Lord, was adopted as a reverent alias when the cult of Hadad increased in importance, and his true name became too sacred to speak aloud for anyone but the high priest. This practice parallels other cultures where substitute titles were used for deities whose names were considered too holy, as Bel was for Marduk, Jupiter to Babylon, Adonai for Yahweh. Other scholars propose that Baal was a native Canaanite deity whose cult was identified with or absorbed aspects of Hadad's. Regardless of their original relationship, by the first millennium BCE, Hadad and Baal were regarded as distinct deities, with Hadad being worshipped by the Armenians, and Baal by the Phoenicians and other Canaanites. So how does this tie all together? Noah is the father of Japheth, who is directly aligned with Iapetos the piercer and Yephet in Hebrew, to expand or God enlarges. This symbolically links Noah, as myth suggests, to Uranus or Caelus in the Romans, basically the archetypal father of a new world. As his son, Iapetos Japheth expresses the Jupiterian or Promethean expansion that follows, withstanding the chaotic waters of initiation into expansion, and piercing willpower to cling on to the valuables they, our long-distant ancestors, preserved on the quote-unquote ark throughout every cataclysm, the very essence of human spirit, the carrying of divine knowledge, is this preservation. This is the foremost encapsulated concept. This also includes people saving their animals, their seeds, their belongings to then continue in a new world. And I mean, this is as much macro and to micro. This can work on an entire nation of people or an individual. It is initiation, whether we like it or not. Look at a side note, look at the Palestine-Israel situation now and how that was a giant sacrifice. It was a giant blood sacrifice, spilling that blood, consecrating that ground, and then reinitiating them into this new world. Even Marco Rubio said there are people coming out of the darkness into light for the first time in 2 years. And that is very Masonic. That is very symbolic of initiation and everything we are seeing right here within this story, this biblical narrative.
Actions you have taken unrelated to this and because of who you are and what you've done and how you're viewed. And this weekend, because of that, at some point very soon, we are going to see 20 living human beings emerge from the darkness into the light for the first time in 2 years. And that is because not only were you used the credibility and the power and the prestige of this office and the relationships you created, and you committed yourself to making it happen. And I think it will go down as a historic moment in the history of our country, and something our country should be very proud of.
Symbolically, this piercing marks spirit into matter. The moment the light illuminates the darkness, and the imagery of cosmic wounding or sacrifice ever present within the conceptual archetypal energies we have discussed. It is indeed through Iapetos's, Jupiter's, Japheth's, Yahweh's piercing, bolting expansion that allows conscious foresight, and the creative rupture that allows awareness, life, or advancement to gain form. From spirit to matter. As above, so below. As within, so without. It is all alchemy. It is all initiation. As I've said, your birth, everybody's birth is an initiation. From the waters and dormancy of spirit into harsh material being. And that spirit continues to express multidimensionally through matter and being itself. This piercing can also be echoed as the, quote, spear of Longinus, which pierced the side of Christ during his crucifixion, linking the Christ-Noah story. This is an esoteric expression. As we know, he was stabbed in the side by the spear itself. Blood and water flowed from this side, as it says in the Bible. This is an expression esoterically as purely blood and water flowing from his side is the moment the veil symbolically between heaven and earth is torn, between spirit and matter. The wound becomes the portal of divine life flowing into creation. Water is the receptive matrix, the lunar and emotion. Blood is the fiery solar life force. This is an alchemical transmutation symbolizing the union of opposites, transmuting mortal life to spiritual vitality. The piercing shows divine will releasing cosmic waters. Thus, the divine will piercing the formless is the best summary for all of this. From here we can conclude, Iapetos Japheth is the archetypal piercer, the separator of spirit and matter. Zeus Jupiter is the cosmic lightning of divine order and expansive will. Prometheus is the inner spear wound of intellect suffering for knowledge. Christ's piercing, union of solar and lunar, spirit manifesting through matter. The initiate's wound, personal integration, transformation through inner revelation and sacrifice. All these operations under one multi-dimensional Godhead. Dude, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier the further down the rabbit hole you go, don't it? I appreciate y'all very much, man. Like, share, and subscribe. To my subscribers already, man, I appreciate y'all. Y'all are awesome. Your support means the world to me, and just the fact that, you know, I'm able to present y'all this information. It's really cool what we got going on. So, hope y'all enjoyed it. Stay smart and take care.